You're on.
I think so, thank you.
Good morning, it's Friday, September 28th, Tufton Road Board of Selectmen work session. First item of business we have for this morning is work on the police department budget. Come on down, chief.
Come on, Bo, come on down.
Okay,
It was the one that considered.
so we were discussing it on Monday, and
Oh, okay. You're welcome.
one area of concern is that we have a significant increase in the request over the previous year. And the bulk of that is associated with adding to the force.
Right.
I know in earlier conversations, particularly with respect to equipment and that sort of thing, there had been some talk about using existing radios, for instance, that you weren't sure whether that would...
There's a possibility that some of the older radios might be able to be reprogrammed.
Yeah. And is that something that's difficult to investigate and determine?
I don't believe it'd be too hard to do. I have to inquire of, make a call to OME, I can find out. Some of the older radios, the standards on digital radio changed to narrow banding, which went from, I think it's 5 kilohertz to 2.5 kilohertz in width, and so you have to have a radio capable of doing that. So, I don't know. I think the radio,
You can't tell by looking at it.
I can't tell by looking at them,
Right.
and the problem is they're functionally obsolete, so if something goes wrong, you can't fix them anyways. You can probably program it, you just plug a wire in and do that. But whether they can program it to narrowband or whether it's, if something goes wrong though, there's no parts for them, as far as I understand with some of the older radios. Hence
Okay.
why they did a grant and gave us the newer radios.
All right, well, in terms of addition to force, what you're requesting is a half a person, basically, 1,000 hours.
Yep.
And your thought is it would be among 2 part-time officers rather than
It could
one.
be 2 or it could be 1,
Right.
I'm not really sure.
So what does 1,000 hours do for us?
Well, as I see it, we're gonna be hiring somebody that's uncertified to fill the 4th position. Which means if we hire somebody essentially now, they won't be available to work until July. Between the academy and the time they have to be accompanying another officer, so we won't gain anything. So I need somebody, so we're basically, and so that's, even though we have somebody we're paying, they're not on their own until July.
Right.
So that's where the part-time officer comes in to fill that gap, if you will,
Okay.
to help fill those hours. I don't know that I have, even with 2, that will give us
The coverage.
the coverage. You know, in talking with other chiefs, you'd probably take 2, maybe 3 to give you 1,000 hours, because it depends on their personal schedules and what fits. Because as a part-time officer versus full-time, you have less control over what they're available because they have other jobs or they have other demands.
Right.
Well, as I do some math here,
Go ahead.
1,000 hours times 53 pay periods is just short of 19 hours a week. You divide that in 2, that's 2 shifts. You work, what, 8-hour shifts, basically? And then you can manipulate a little bit. The other thing is, as his force matures and has more vacation days and more sick days and more personal days, I support that he needs special officers to fill that.
The other reason is, I think the officer on leave, while at some point will be coming back, given what the issue is, I do not think I can count on him every week, 40 hours a week.
Okay.
I think there's gonna be trips back to the hospital. There's gonna be setbacks along the way. There's no
Correct.
cure.
Yeah,
It's something you manage, and I imagine there'll be setbacks along the way, so that will be another gap in our coverage that we will have.
so the addition that you're requesting is to deal with those issues rather than plussing the force up at full
It's more or
strength.
less trying to get us to be at close to with the strength we are now. There was a time we actually did have, I believe, 4 and 1 part-time, a couple of times. We had, when somebody left, they stayed on part-time and they worked for a little while anyways. So it's not, they didn't work a whole lot of shifts. This would kind of be expecting a little more shifts than what they had done. They were available, but it didn't really work out because we didn't need them that much. And when they were available, they weren't, because they worked to full-time jobs. This particular case, though, there's a good chance that we'll see more. And some of those costs for equipment, I mean, it kind of depends on when we hire these people too, because if they start this year, the cost is this year, so we won't have to buy some of the equipment next year, see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So if we hire a part-timer now that we keep through next year, they're gonna have equipment and it'll probably be pretty new, so the chances of needing a whole lot would be minimal.
Right. With respect to equipment and vehicles, let's say for the sake of discussion that we hire a new officer that then has to go through the academy, so he's not available until middle of next year. So we have, we're covering with part-time folks. Can't we use existing equipment for them to use while this new officer is not on the force? I mean, I'm thinking radios and whatever.
So you're saying while somebody's in the academy,
Yeah,
the equipment that they would need
right,
to work, like in August, say,
yeah.
would be with somebody that's working in mid-hell. It depends on what you're talking. Basically, the radio would probably be about the only thing.
Okay.
Because they have to have a gun, they have to have a duty belt, they have to have all body armor, they have to have all this stuff down at the academy.
Okay,
So it'd be basically the radio is about the only piece of equipment they don't take with them down to the academy. The radio and the taser would be about the 2 things, but we'd have to buy that when they come back anyways. So if the part-timer stays on in August to work, or for the remaining 6 months, they would need, I mean, I'd rather, there's a possibility this could be 1 part-timer, not 2, if the right person were to come along and want to work more than just a shift now and then.
right.
That's a key part of it, is how many shifts you expect
A
to
lot
see.
unknown here,
Not
absolutely.
unknown with part-timers. I've talked to other chiefs, and what they had one in Wolfboro they used, he's done for the year because he did all his hours. Their part-time certification limits you down the hours you can work a year.
And what is that?
It's 1,300.
Okay,
Depends on whether they're full-time or part-time certified. So if you get somebody who's retired, but they have a full-time certification, they will be limited to, well, it depends on when they start. They start and collect a check before the end of this year, it's 32 hours a week.
okay,
If we hire them after the first, they collect their first check after the first, next year, it's 26 hours a week. Well, it averages 26 hours a week. So the law changes January 1, 2019.
I know of 2 people who are full-time certified, are currently working,
Yeah.
and would start tomorrow as a special officer here in town.
Well, sometimes share that name with me, because I haven't
As a matter of fact, one still is sworn in and still has his Tuftonboro uniforms. I haven't spoken to him directly, but I wouldn't speak to him without the chief's permission and your permission.
Talk to me.
Well, certainly, I would hope that anybody that has any ideas or information would share it, chief.
I want the chief to be successful. I want to build upon past successful. You know, within a few weeks, he's going to the IACP conference. I want my roads patrolled just like he does.
Right. Chip?
I think we got a lot of fluff here. If you're gonna hire 2 part-time officers, let's just go with that assumption.
Okay.
Why do you need on-call? It's an hour a week.
Why do I need on-call? Because I'm using them to fill in for people that are off, not necessarily taking, you're still gonna have people on call at night. It's not, you know, to give us, to avoid the on.
That's just a time management issue. That's not that shouldn't be a money issue.
I've done the math on that, if I can address it.
Sure.
If we have two part-time officers filling in, just to get us back to where we were a couple of months ago, the chief is correct about vacancies. You still need someone to take call at night.
You'd have
At the
to,
$4 an hour.
you'd have to have 6 full-time officers to avoid the on-call.
I don't agree. There's no way in the world.
I've done the math on this one here. The chief is correct.
It's a time management issue. You have now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people.
Yeah, but one is not gonna be able to work
Well,
until July.
okay, that's your trainee,
Yeah,
which is essentially taking the place of Carl,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so until July, so you have 6 months worth of 5 people.
Yeah. No, well,
No,
no, because they're not full-time.
Tom's not
But
bad.
just because they're not full-time doesn't mean they start at 8 and quit at noon. And that's not a good time management. If they're part-time, you tell them when they're coming in. Okay, you're coming in at 4 and you're working till midnight or whatever.
But
There's
there's
still
also,
somebody.
there's also
that you
things
take
that
midnight
occur
to
when
call
they're
out.
off duty.
The on-call hours are at night, is that right, when you don't have somebody scheduled to work?
Yes.
So is it like all night, or is it, I mean,
It's
how's that
typically
work?
11 to 7,
okay?
typically, but it does vary.
And past boards struggled with this because a state trooper or a sheriff would be in Conway when you call in a noise complaint. Hey, I'm in the middle of a DWI arrest. Is it that important, ma'am, that I come down? And he came up with this on-call, and it seems to be working.
I appreciate the fact that we need to have as much coverage as we can. That said, we've got a $46,000, $42,600 increase in wages. What are we gonna do here?
You want me to tell you what I would do?
All right?
I'll
Sure.
start.
All right.
Our 2 police officers were slated for pay raises to 1610 and 16.6. I say for the new police officer's position,
That could be changed because that was, I
Yep.
did that based upon that's only one police officer though, the
Yep.
other one's existing, 1610 is existing.
That's right. What I did is I took Carl's position and changed it to step 1, pay grade 16. And that comes out to $53,000 a year, $53,360.40 a year. What that does is, let's say you have an individual that, like the last 2 guys you hired were certified, came in, you could negotiate other than the absolute minimum pay grade. Understand where I'm coming from?
Well, that's why I left it what it was. I mean, I'd hope that
Right.
that would be the cap, but I would certainly, if it was somebody not certified, they wouldn't come in at that rate. That was, I guess to be clear, that was for somebody that was certified.
Well, if
With
he's not gonna
similar
work until
experience.
July, my assumption is he's not certified. He's gotta go to the academy.
Right, it's gonna go to the academy, and
So
that would
these guys-
actually be on grade 13 if they're not certified. which would put it at 8, is a 2498. But my point is, if somebody's not certified, somebody coming in probationary would come in at 13.
What pay grade, and what's that?
Well, it depends on, I would assume we'd be someplace in this 6, 7 if they're not certified.
I had it pay grade 16, step 1.
Which is 2517.
25.17 an hour, which is,
The way I would say, and I appreciate your thought process on that, but I think to stick with the grades by position, we should be on 13. So plug yourself into the 13 line somewhere, which would be probably,
$25 an hour, call it.
it'd be
20.
step 8, 2498. It's a few pennies less, but it puts it on this grade 13, which is the probation. But I share that same thought. But I left it this way in case
this,
good comes out of it and we get somebody certified.
well,
That's,
before the day is over, I'm gonna make the following motion on this line. That the position, Carl's whole position, be budgeted for 16.1. And I'll go through what it is an hour, what it is a week. It's $53,360 a year. That gives you the flexibility, gives the selectmen the flexibility if a person comes in with some qualifications other than the basic ones. What that does is it makes that line where PD officer salaries, $190,290. And before the morning's over, I'm gonna make that motion.
that cuts like about 5,500 off, I think.
Yes.
That's, yeah.
Now, there's a corollary here. Let's say, for example, on January 2nd, before we go to Budget Committee, there's a tremendous opportunity here that we can all agree on. We can always ask the Budget Committee to put more money there. You know, we do it with fuel oil every year,
Well,
or gasoline.
And, you know, the budget hearing is the absolute
Cut-off.
last opportunity to tweak up. So there are other opportunities to,
Technically a town meeting, but that's limited, it's capped at 10%, but
Right.
that's probably, I wouldn't do that. I've never
It's-
asked for that, and I would.
it's
that'd be
always easier
bad.
to tweak down at a town meeting.
Yes.
And that's my preference is, if we come in a little lower, but
There's something else that is driving me here. There are currently 6 employees out of 14 that are not getting 2% raises this year. And if we want to build a library, and if we want to build a police station, which I think we need, I'm just being honest how I feel. Thank you for letting me speak.
all right, so
So at the end of the day, who sets the payroll?
The pay rate for
Yeah.
people? You do.
You do.
Okay.
The selectmen have to sign off on any.
I just don't wanna put $53,000 on a line and then, the game's afoot.
Yep.
I'm not ready to pay somebody fresh out of the academy 53 grand to be a police officer in Tuftonboro. I'm not saying it's not a great job, it's not a dangerous job, et cetera, et cetera. All I'm saying is that it doesn't give us any place to go.
Yep, you're correct.
And we don't have any guarantees, we think we have a guarantee that they're gonna stay, but exercising that guarantee has been troublesome in the past.
Well, I know a contract like ours was upheld in Deering. I mean, we could do it,
Yeah,
but we
it's
have
just
to
a
be
pain in
willing
the
to do
ass.
it.
Well,
Pain.
the real issue is you want to get the candidate that when they go through the academy and they come here, they want to be here. And hopefully we have an environment in town and within the department that doesn't drive them away. Because if we hire and train somebody and 6 months later they want to go someplace else, then we have other issues besides just that we got to fill that position again.
I think that's a wise comment, and I think the chief has his finger on the pulse. He's
Yep.
already informed us there are 36 other communities that we're competing with.
And some of the
And-
multiple
and-
openings.
And that's why I came up with the 16-1, the first step. The other thing is, in a town not too far from here, they've had 2 people wash out of the academy.
Yeah, the town just north of us has 3 vacancies right now.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Yeah.
and Troop E has one entire
So,
shift.
so Academy washout basically
I don't think
is-
they washed out the academy. I think they washed out during field training
Yeah,
and probationary period.
I'm not sure why they
All right.
washed
Why,
out,
but
but they did.
that's,
So,
but that's basically a selection issue, right?
But the point is, it's, we're
Nothing's
competing,
100%, right.
we're
I
competing
understand.
against somebody else that
Yeah,
has
yeah.
3 openings
No.
right next to us.
Right, I
And
understand.
other towns nearby have openings too,
Yeah.
so we're competing.
All right,
so historically, and I'm not, I'm just beating you up because you're the chief of police and I can.
I'm here,
Uniforms,
yeah.
$13,651, $14,4597, $15,1290, $16,1923, $17,4855. So my assumption from reading those numbers going forward is that in 14 and 17, there was some replacements.
Yeah, there was
we
some
didn't-
extra stuff we got, but next year going forward, the reason why it's up is because we have to get body armor. That's the big,
How much is the body armor?
it's gonna cost us 4,000 for the soft armor. I mean, I can probably get the hard armor plates this year, but we need to replace all our body
But of
armor.
the 9,000 that you're asking for, what do you figure the body armor as a percentage of that?
It's on page 6,
So someplace in here, I thought.
page 6.
Yeah, 4,000.
Okay, so so $5,000 is for uniforms, so it's
Yep.
$500 that we're done.
And again, it depends on whether we hire 1 or 2 part-time officers and we hire them this year, because I'm not gonna buy uniforms again next year if I buy them this year. I mean, might be a replacement if they rip something, but
Right.
that's the
And the lifespan of the armor,
5 years.
5 years?
And, I mean, depending upon whether or not there's grants available, we can get 50% back, typically on the soft body armor, the
Those are pretty
4,000.
intermittent.
Okay,
but I
so
don't
when
think
you did,
But we pay the money back goes into the general fund, so I have to show the expense on this side.
right, right.
so you did body armor in 14, is that a good assumption?
Yes, that's why that was up.
Okay, and last year,
We bought some dress jackets and stuff.
all right. Okay,
I have some other things I'd like to bring up if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
The other line item that I'm going to add to is office assistant. That's pay grade 9, step 14 for our current person for 20 hours. It's my belief that if a person in the office doing some of the office things and meeting people and non-police functions can get our patrolmen out on the road where we need them. And before the morning's over, I'm gonna recommend that we add 10 hours at 19.1, that's $17.89 an hour.
to our assistant?
For another 10-hour assistant. What happens if our current assistant, remember you had the plane crash analogy? Like this, there's so many things that an assistant in the office can do. And I'm gonna make that recommendation before the meeting is
Well-
over.
I mean, if we want to talk about, we haven't talked about the applicant for part-time.
Yep.
So I'm not only a fan, I'm a Nazi about cross-training. Maybe that's an opportunity for some cross-training, rather than
Yep.
increasing the police budget. The police budget's gonna be a hard sell anyway, because we've got some changes that are happening, and it's just gonna be the way it is.
Yes.
I'd rather not add any more money to it, and the chief hasn't asked for it. So how's he gonna defend it?
Well, I have some things I want to ask him about.
All right, I'm gonna ask him a couple more things.
You-
Go right ahead.
Okay. Is there an annual repair and maintenance budget for pistols, rifles, shotguns, and tasers?
Tasers, we have a 5-year, I forget what they call it, taser assurance or something like that. So what happens at the end of 5 years, they send us a new taser, we send these back. I think we don't even have to send them back, they send us new ones. because that's the life expectancy they want to have on them, and that's what they'll cover for life expectancy. So we have an annual payment that gives us, in 5 years, to give us a new one. There's 2 options, I think that's the one we went with. So, on those rifles and pistols, no, we don't. I mean, the rifles we've had for about 18 years,
Do you
17
own your own
years.
pistols?
Huh?
Do the officers own their own pistols?
No, the department does. I think that's a better way of doing it, because then I can dictate what happens with them. We did at one point have people carrying their own if they wanted to, and
That's a wise
that was
decision.
problematic because they weren't carrying the same thing we were carrying.
Right.
And so in case of an officer involved shooting, the proper method is you take that firearm away and you hand them another one. And that one, the one that they used, goes into evidence.
Right.
And the reason you just, one, that goes into evidence, but you fill the holster again because the message it sends to the officers, they've done something wrong if you take their gun away and don't give them a hole. If you leave one empty holster, it sets that, it can be
Yes.
traumatic,
Right.
can lead to PTSD, complicate the mental emotions they're going through at the time anyway, so you try and
That's
deal with
correct.
some of that. But, and the other advantage of having our own firearms is I can dictate what happens with them. I don't feel comfortable dictating to people what they do with their own firearms. If it's our firearm and you're suspended, it comes back, I hold on to it, and you don't get to carry your duty weapon around to do stuff if you're suspended. I also dictate that no unauthorized use of the firearm can be done. In other words, they can't let their friends go shooting with it. They can't go hunting with it. They can't, they can only use it under the color of law. And they also have to lock it up and secure it when they're not on duty.
So
They're not
does
carrying it.
the $200 line item on the repair and maintenance for firearms,
It's like maintenance stuff.
is that what Lloyd was asking?
Yes. I
Page
feel,
9.
with all due respect,
That's
Chief,
firearms, that's maintenance stuff, that's patches, whatever, if we have to buy some parts, if we have to do some minor stuff.
Right.
my motives are honorable here. I feel strongly, Chief, that the firearms, the pistols, the rifles, the shotgun should have an armorer go through and clean them and maintain them every single year. That is the life protection of the officers and my citizens, and I would be willing to fund that. And I'm gonna make that recommendation before.
Don't we have a designated armorer as one of our officers?
Yes, we do. Sergeant Hathcock is.
You know, do we change the oil in our cruisers?
No, I'm just saying, I think he's already covering that with his Officer Hathcock.
I want my police officers in this town being police officers, not changing the oil in the cruiser.
Oh, I see
And,
what you're saying.
That's where I'm coming from, and my motives are honorable.
Well, my motives are honorable, and I
Yes.
don't think they should carry guns at all. So we're not going there.
Okay.
It's, and I'm not, it's difficult for me to expand this budget, just between you and I.
Yep.
I think it's a good, solid budget. I think the chief has the right intentions. I just see it as a,
We have a lot of unknowns we're dealing with,
yeah.
and that translates into how do we put enough money in the salary line and in maybe additional equipment that we need to make sure. Obviously, anybody that's on the street needs to be properly equipped. And not knowing exactly how the year is going to unfold creates some question marks in terms of things that we have to spend money on to properly equip our officers. And
I have a couple of them.
as a former
I don't,
as a former policeman, you have insight that's different than I do.
I don't want to be known as a micromanager.
But, and I think things that you suggest are good things for the department head to consider.
Thank you.
But as he considers them, if he wants to put them in the budget, that's great.
I have a couple of other, anywhere in your budget for recruitment costs? it costs.
That'd be under conference and training, that's where it comes out of, so, yeah, Sykes, Poly, pre-employment testing comes out of there,
Is there enough in there?
I believe so.
Okay.
So the bulk of the,
It kind of depends on when we hire somebody, but yes.
the bulk of the increase in the conference and training is the academy,
It'll be that,
$2,000.
well, yeah, some other tuition training. We haven't gone to a whole lot this year, but I plan on doing some. In fact, there's some I gotta check on for next week for Sergeant Hathcock.
Next question I have is, where's the money in the budget to repair the radar trailer and to get the radar signs installed? I don't expect you to have to do this. I think if we
Well-
farm it out, it gets done.
Wasn't that in this year, the radar signs?
Yeah, and I went yesterday and got some paint so I can mark some spots for the radar signs to go up. I mean, that's here, Jim has offered to put the posts up. I assume he'll put that, I'm hoping he puts that in the highway department budget, not mine, but we'll see. And then as far as the radar trailer, 2 years in a row, I've had the trained, certified people work on it, and it hasn't been, the factory certified. I think I know what's wrong better, I just need some time to do it, and I don't see that, given that we're almost October, and by November, I can't really put it out. I'm gonna wait, I'm not gonna spend,
So it's not going out in the winter?
not really. 'Cause
Well, I don't know.
Because
That
I
was the
can't, the
question.
trailer I can't really put out because the snow plows and snow banks and if it's edge. So I figured it, rather than, because the batteries are about $250 for the batteries, then I have to buy, I think it's the charging controller. They just keep telling me it's the batteries, but from what I've read and be able to research, I think it's the controller killing the batteries.
Those are two pieces of equipment that get you and your police officers doing more effective patrol. And I have no problem budgeting some money to have an expert install them and fix them. As a matter of fact, you type up the letter, I'll volunteer to tow the trailer back to Maine, and they can fix it and guarantee it for 2 years. I'm willing to help you there. Another question I have is computers and software and whatnot. What do we need there?
The only thing I was asking for is basically keeping what we have. The one thing that I may not have addressed in our yeah, so one of the software systems might be a little more next year, because you pay by the number of officers you have, so it depends on whether you have 1 or 2 part-timers, right? That is probably like $400 or $500 per officer, but as far as computers, I had no plans on replacing any of the computers next year.
I'm lumping computers all under one thing because
Yeah.
I'm not a computer geek.
The only other thing I added was to do, so right now when we do a search on get information, it's what Carroll County has. Carroll County has a connection to another, what they call a super hub. We thought we would get it if they got it, but it's not. You have to pay, it's the way they work, the company works. You have to pay a little extra to do it, but that would be beneficial to be able to do that. I put that under new equipment, I believe.
So do we, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but do we have Tom do a survey, like a CIP on computers? So that we've got an
Yes,
upgrade going
yes.
on kind of constantly, or?
Yes,
easily?
yeah.
I know I've asked him and I've asked all the department heads, can you review computers?
So
Yeah, there should be some aging going on here.
we did a new server this year.
Right?
My computer is supposed to be done this year. We haven't done it. If I have enough, I'll do it, but the others aren't that old. I think they're okay still. It'll probably be a couple of years before we have to deal with some of the other desktops. The ones in the cruisers, my presumption was we'd replace them as recycled cruisers. So that's how we were gonna do those. So,
This is the dilemma I have, and I'll just be candid. There's been 5 instances in the last year where you've been frustrated because you can't send pictures and your computer went down or something, software went down or whatever. Excuse me, chief. It's my opinion, in order for you to run your department and your officers to be safe out there, they need radios and computers that work. And I'm willing to add to the budget a few dollars to make sure that happens. That's where I'm coming from.
well, I appreciate that.
My motives are honorable.
So-
I don't want one of you guys hurt. You and Carl already went to the hospital once on a case. I don't want to see it again.
So the computers that are currently in the cruisers, I guess that's the topic here, are they all good? I know we're gonna get a new cruiser.
And I would get a new computer in that.
Then we'd upgrade that computer.
Yep.
And so
That'd be
we're running a
awesome.
5 or 6 year cycle on these? On the
No, it's like gonna be like an
computers?
8, 9 year cycle.
So
probably.
maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little long, but yeah. But I think right now we're still good for next year.
Okay.
What about the software that's only 10 megabytes or something? It doesn't send pictures.
But that's the internet connection that's in the budget.
Thank you.
But that also, right now, so the way it works right now, I forget what we pay, like, it's either $70 a month or something like that. We have a legacy, Adelphia with a static IP address. To get basically they don't offer that as a business package now under Spectrum. They offer a faster package. But right now, whatever that is, I don't pay, none of that's in my budget. So that's kind of a transfer too, because right now it's coming out of the town
Right.
office budget. So yes, my budget went up to $150 a month for that, but we're already paying like, I think it's like $60 or $70 a month somewhere else. So the net to the town is only the $80, $90 a month, I'd say only, but it's still doubling it. But it's, my point is, it's taking a little bit off some, right now the town, through the office, town buildings, I think it's under, I don't know what it's under. It pays, it's just like the electricity, we don't get billed separate for electricity. Right now, the town pays the internet, and there's a separate bill that comes in, I believe, for the police department, because we have a static IP address separate from the town's internet. But that's, right now, that's still being paid through the, I've seen it once in a while because it's a police department, but then it's paid out of another line, not under in my budget. I'm proposing put it here with a faster data rate. So,
I don't know, you can't send pictures to, are our cars equipped with cameras?
okay, so, yeah, and no. Yes, well, they have cruiser videos, but that's not the same.
Not the same as what?
What we're talking about, the pictures that I'm talking about for that is when we take pictures at a scene,
Okay.
we have to come back to the office, we have to plug it into our computers here
Right.
and feed them up to, because
So the alternative would be to be able to do that in a cruiser? Is that cool?
nope, we cannot do that.
But you could with additional equipment?
Nope, the speed is about in the building.
Okay,
That's what we're talking about, the speed in the building.
all right.
There is, under new equipment, modems for the, so right now we have an air card. It's just a USB modem that plugs in. It's inside the cruiser. So we have a number of dead spots. In fact, right here is a dead spot outside the PD. What I'm suggesting and what I hear is much better, gives you better coverage if you have an antenna on the roof for your modem. And then it plugs into your computer that way. That's in the budget under new equipment. That will get, Marlboro did that and they lost a lot of their dead spots. I've heard that other places.
And who is our cellular data with? Is it with
Verizon,
Verizon?
yeah.
Okay. You might check other departments around and see if other carriers might offer better coverage.
So far, it's not happened.
Okay? Well, I can tell you, I have a computer that's on AT&T
Yeah.
and very few spots in the area that it doesn't cover. Sitting right out here in the parking lot, no problem. Inside my truck, okay?
I heard they put some new towers
we
on.
used to have Verizon in it, and then when they did the new contract and the new units, it's AT&T, and it gives much better coverage. So that doesn't mean this is not,
There's two issues
Switch.
going on.
yeah,
That is part of the FirstNet that came out. They got to go on new spots and they have to provide more coverage. So I heard they put a new tower up in Wolfboro and they've supposedly
Well,
switched some other towers
this
up.
is from about the last 3 years, so it's before FirstNet.
Well, and the other issue though is we transmit CJIS information,
Yeah,
Criminal Justice Information System. We have to meet certain security standards. They do not, as of the last I knew, meet that standard. So we would have to buy auxiliary equipment,
okay.
a software package in between that
All right.
it's, the
Just-
CJIS
just
stuff is up
mention
here.
it,
That's
yep.
what I've been told about.
Yep.
And now there's a question whether or not Verizon meets CJIS requirements either, but, but right now, from what I've been told, it does meet CJIS requirements, so we can do it.
So the bottom line is, there's either money in this year's budget left over, or you've budgeted for next year. So the incidents where you couldn't get police work done will be corrected. Do you understand my question?
I do.
With respect to computers operating and
Software.
data transfer.
Well, computers can be quirky things sometimes.
Right.
I mean, the other day I tried doing something on the office computer, it didn't work. I shut it down, restarted it, and it worked. So how do I can't say it's 100% foolproof, and internet goes down,
Right.
stuff happens.
Right.
So I mean, I can't guarantee 100%, but this will give us better car coverage. This will also, I believe, the faster internet will solve our upload issues with photos, because the way it works with photos now is, and any data that we send to the sheriff's office that's slow. It's like 800 kilobytes, I think is what I tested out as. And we're at, I want to say like 7 or 8 megabytes download. It was real slow.
Where I'm coming from is, I'm not here to micromanage.
Yeah.
I appreciate how you dive into these issues, and I appreciate that. But as a policymaker, I want my police chief and my police officers to be out driving by his house and not getting bogged down and trying to do issues where we can have a contractor do it. Do you understand my motives are honorable?
I do.
That's where I'm coming from.
I understand.
Thank you for listening.
I understand.
And that's not a veiled criticism.
No,
I want you and your guys to be successful and safe, my friend.
One, the car modems will help with the coverage, I think, a lot. The faster upload speeds will help a lot, because sometimes when we send photos up right now, they get chopped halfway through, and we have to, sometimes they don't download all the way properly. We end up with like half a photo and we go to print it or something. It's weird. Anyway, so as it stands right now, that's how we're doing it. We send it up there. The nice thing about sending it up there too is they're backing it up. The data is, all the new data is saved up there on their, they've got a big rack mount room with Halon system or whatever they use for non-water. I mean, it's secured, CJIS compliant, all that. So that's a big advantage for us there. But obviously I can't guarantee 100%, but it's like I got a call. Well, one of the things that we're working on right now, and to finish the transfer of the old stuff to the new server, TriTech contacted me and I said, nope, talk to Tom to take care of that. But now they're like trying to organize their schedules. So
It's a work in progress.
but I mean, I appreciate that. But sometimes I don't think it's, well, yeah, I'll just say that. I appreciate that. The thought.
I want to move on to another subject, if I could, cruiser maintenance. I think it's an excellent program. I'd like to strongly recommend, my family has gone to this program here. It's an outfit in Concord that rust-proofs cars They have several different applications. I think it's $189. I think you have money in the budget to do it this year, and I'd like to make sure there's money in the budget next year. This is not a fluid film that affects rubber parts. It's mineral oil. There's a couple of different applications. If I could help drive a vehicle down there, what it would do is it really, in my family, we've done 5 vehicles already in the last year, and
This is an annual.
yes,
What oil undercoating?
yes.
Yeah.
I'll look into it.
And if I can do something to help, thank you.
Chip?
Well, you're on track to underspend your budget by $125,000 currently.
Huh? How do you figure that?
Yeah, I'm just doing the math. And if you add back into that the holiday pay of 12, or subtract it from that, and overtime at 10, so 22, so you're $100,000 under budget.
This year?
Yep, you gonna stay there?
I don't know how you figured
Okay.
that. I'd have to see the.
I'm looking at the budget. As of
Yeah.
9/19,
I
you
don't
spent,
have that printout.
you spent $254,000
Thank you.
out of the $391,000 budget.
How much?
254.
Okay.
As of 9/24, I don't know how you done it, but $115,000 left. I have the 9/24 run out. It's in,
Yeah.
Yeah, I got
it's
the 9/19 right on. What's the total spent so far?
70, he's only spent 70% of his budget.
I don't know the percentages either. What's the number? How much dollars?
He has
Which is where
spent,
it's 75% of the year.
he has spent $276,059 out of 391.
Now, some of these are end of year spending.
Right.
Too, right?
Yes.
Holiday pay, that, you paid holiday pay out in December, correct?
Yes.
There are other things that typically, as I remember, you do uniforms.
Well, there's some uniform expenses that are on, we just paid some, we've got some more
Right.
coming.
Yeah, you don't have any on this budget that I'm showing.
Right.
And
What day
repairs,
is, Karen, what day is, oh, this is 9/19.
Yeah.
that's what I have.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just, I don't have in front of me what your historical record is of underspending your budget, but I would certainly encourage that activity.
It's in the next page.
Yeah,
No, that's only spending.
Not
That's-
what he budgeted.
Right,
Oh, that's right.
right.
Yeah.
So. Yep.
Yeah, because
So radio equipment, that's gonna come out pretty quick, because I think next week we're doing a radar
for instance, your
certifications.
repairs and maintenance, I mean, you've averaged about $6,000 over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yep, and I expect, so I
I mean, do
figure,
you have some repairs that are imminent? Some,
there's probably a couple of things that are gonna need to be done. We're gonna need to get some tires for winter. Typically about this time of year, I'm buying winter tires.
but we could go right down the list, so
Yeah.
I encourage you to do that, because I think if we can come over.
I expect some savings on the fuel, because obviously 2 cars are parked right now.
Right, office supplies, you should be.
We're gonna be over on office supplies, I think.
Yeah,
Yep,
so you need to look at that.
I expect that we're gonna be over.
By how much?
Right now, I think I'm at,
You're at 9,100
Yep.
spent so far, so you're at 96%.
95 budgeted.
You have $380 left.
What do you think you're gonna spend for the year?
well, I just bought labels and some things to hold clothes for the basement. I expect I'll probably get a couple racks, and I'll have to get some more paper and ink, so I'll probably spend about another $400 or $500. I'll probably be just slightly over the 9,500.
Okay. So if you look forward at the office supplies that you're asking for,
Mhm.
is the $1,000 increase appropriate if you're over budget this year?
Yes, because as I said, if we add somebody, I have to add somebody on some of the
No, I
software.
appreciate that. I mean, I'm just wondering if it's high enough. I mean, if you've
I-
gone over budget at 95,
I
and you've
think,
added $1,000
yeah, I
to
hear
two
what you're
officers.
saying. I think it'll be enough. I think it'll be enough.
Well, I'd encourage you to review that,
Okay.
just so that you're, I don't want you coming in here next August and saying you need more money.
No, I'll figure out another way to, I stay within my budget.
No, I know it'll stay within the bottom line, but it'd be nice if all the lines worked.
You know, I can't always guarantee it because I don't know what's gonna happen, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, things come up sometimes.
I guess I'm all set. I do want to have the chief give me a much better explanation for duty. I just don't understand it, and if maybe,
Which you're on call.
without putting names to the hours.
You talking about on-call time, you mean?
Yeah, on call, that's what
Okay.
I said duty, I apologize. Just give me a week's schedule, or a 2-week, or a month, or whatever, and so that I can kind of see it. I'm a autodidact learner. I just need to see something before I can actually get my hands around it. And I'm trying to plug it into what my assumptions are. Your assumptions are obviously different, so we need to come together on that. Adding the 2 part-timers, or 1 part-timer and 1 full-time, or whatever the dynamic ends up being. Just so I'm clear on what, you obviously feel you have a need. I'm not convinced that you do.
I'm looking at adding, well, I'm looking at it not so much adding as filling gaps.
Right.
Because I expect there'll be gaps next year between, if we don't find somebody certified, there's gonna be at least 6 months of a gap. And I also think the person on leave is not going to be
Available,
all the time.
right.
So I'm seeing 2 gaps are gonna, two
So-
areas of gaps are gonna need to be filled as best we can. Now, obviously, we fill in what we can, but there's a limit. There's a limit to
So
what we can do.
sometime between now and the end of October, just do the exercise for me.
Yeah.
Do a week schedule, I'm sure you have it
So-
on your computer.
So I just want to make sure, you know, I'm explaining it properly. I'm not looking to add, per se,
No,
hours.
I'm not saying.
I'm trying to
you're
just
not.
fill gaps,
I'm
but it's
just
going to cost
saying
money to fill those gaps.
We're adding people,
I'm adding people, which costs money.
and I'm fine with
I
that.
understand.
I just don't want to have it cost more money than it should. Or if it costs money, I need to be able to sit as the budget committee member from the select board. I need to be able to sit there and say with authority, no, this is how it works.
Yeah, I'm trying, but that's what, I want to make it clear. I'm not trying to add people to add to the department per se. I'm trying to fill what I see as
Right.
foreseeable gaps
Right.
going forward.
But I hope you appreciate that the questions.
Oh,
are
the
coming up.
question's gonna come up, and there's already people screaming on the internet about the RFP, thinking that you've approved adding 2 officers to the department, which I've,
See, that's why I don't go on the internet. It just doesn't.
it's
the way it's-
clearly not the case at all, but I've had to address that in my CIP,
Right.
and I'm addressing that in the Tufton Road Times thing coming up, that, you know, the RFP was for a building that's hopefully gonna last 30 years,
Yeah,
and there may be demands for
right.
that we need to add down the road within those 30 years, and you can't just build a building like this and then try and shoehorn in. It's an exercise in what,
Well, you can, because that's what we've been
That's
doing
what
for the
time-
last
right.
40 years.
right, but I mean, and it's not necessarily a set thing that it will be 6. It may end up saying, well, maybe it's 5, you need to look at over the next 20, 30 years. But it's not an exercise in saying that you've approved adding to the department today. Nobody's voted or approved to do that as far as expansion of anything.
Right.
Where in your future budget do you have a part-timer's line?
I put it into officers' salaries,
Yeah, it's broken down on
on the page on officer salaries.
On page 3.
or page 3.
In page 3.
which is right after page 2.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought I'd gone to 4. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
I'm gonna recommend, and I'll just go through it just so you can write it down. Karen, you got your pencil ready?
Mm-hmm.
Under officer salaries, 4210-11, I'm gonna admit 190,290, that's a reduction. The next line, 4210-12,
Excuse me, police officer salary, line 2, 190,000.
290.
that's line 4210-11.
Dash 110. Okay.
Yes.
190, 290. Thank you.
The next line, 4210-12-110, office assistant. Going to recommend that $10,000 be added to that line.
So it'd be 32,984 for those keeping track.
34.
34, 529. I'm looking at the 2008 numbers.
Oh, I was too. Okay.
Line
I'm not
4210,
alone.
4210-13-141 overtime. That'd be 15,200.
And
And I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
can,
Do we have a second?
all right, I'll second just for discussion.
Yep.
Yep, I understand.
Where'd the $468 go for overtime? What was the calculation there?
What I did is I took the 190, no, the wages, and multiplied by 8%, and rounded it off.
So he by dropping the wages, he drops it down.
Yes.
That's how I
Yep.
use a rule of thumb. Some places use 10%, I use 8%.
All right. So as we come back here to the page 3, the breakout here, that he's got that 233.38, and you've
Where are you?
page 3, that's his number,
Mm-hmm.
all right, and you've taken that to 190,290, right?
Yes.
Okay, so how does that translate from here to the front page?
Okay.
Well,
You're-
because the 96 isn't part of it.
The 96 is not part
Oh,
of
I'm
it.
sorry.
His salary is not part of it. I took the hourly employee.
Well, and it still isn't, right?
Right.
So you've dropped the whole budget.
This
All,
office,
all we did was that line. You're reducing the budget by $40,048.
Mhm.
Is that what you're doing? Selectmen report?
from 230 to 190, yes.
Right.
But that 230 doesn't include the top line, I don't think, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Well,
Okay, so how do you, so where does that 40 come out of in the other,
Yeah, where's the 40 come out of the two?
Okay, I'll go through it.
Yeah.
Chiefs leave at 96,121.
that's a different line,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. I'm on page 3.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sergeant stays where it is.
Mhm,
MPO1 stays where it is.
mhm.
The next line goes to 50,000.
even?
Yeah, I rounded it off to 50,000. If I used my step 16.1, it would be 53,360.
50 what? 360 what?
53,360.
That's 16.1, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yep,
I had the part-timers at 10,087 each, times 2.
10087?
10, comma, 870.
Oh, 870, thanks.
But the MPO2 was 50 even, is that correct?
In my figures, I put it in at 50, and I rounded that off with his representation that we probably wouldn't have a certified officer till July.
Well, we're not coming up with 40 grand though. Where's the other?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Didn't do
You
the
got,
math on it.
you're like at 29,000 or maybe, not even that, 28,000.
Yeah, 8 plus 11, like, yeah.
That's, yeah, I come up to 208,671 with rounding, so it may be plus or minus.
230.
Hmm?
238.
Thought it came,
Okay,
So that's,
thought it came for 212, but okay, whatever.
oh, you know what, I didn't,
that's a savings.
I didn't
Oh,
put the,
plus
plus the call hours.
Yeah, so I'm at 223, something.
All right.
I'm
I
round,
ended
right
up
on
at-
that range.
I ended up at 220,543.
So
Which,
$9,800 savings, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So are we in agreement at 220,000? What was the number you had? I'm sorry, Bill.
220,543.
Okay.
It's that new math.
Everything's new to me. So 97.95 off the bottom line.
Yep.
All right, and moving on to the assistant, I'm gonna respectfully restate my position.
Go ahead.
The chief didn't ask for an additional $10,000, so I don't wanna give it to him.
you want to give it to me?
No. If you ask for it, maybe I get it, but I'm not gonna give it to you just because I like you. So,
Would you split the difference?
I honestly don't wanna put another person into the police department this year if we're gonna put part-timers and we have to replace Carl.
Yes.
There's no way around that.
Yes.
But in addition to that, we've got some other people and throwing into the mix the fact that the chief would like to keep a cruiser for a spare, the optics aren't working in our favor.
Well, and the other thing is,
You are correct.
in a year, when we're bringing new sworn staff on board, the idea that we're gonna bring an additional administrative person, train them, along with all the other things that the chief is doing with the new officers, that's,
And where are you gonna put them?
well,
I mean, I think in your new building, maybe we can find some room for somebody, but I don't know where you're gonna put them over there.
So, if this is something that the chief felt was a good benefit to bring to the department this year, and asked for it, I would consider it more favorably, but I think we're, got a lot going on here, and,
I'm gonna propose an amendment to
okay,
Selectmen.
yep,
I move that we approve the budget for the police department, the 4210 budget, for a total of $440,366, which would reflect the alterations that Mr. Wood proposed for the salaries, and no increase in the office assistance line.
What's that bottom figure for?
440366.
okay.
I'm sorry, one more time, please?
440366.
Thank you.
In the spirit of cooperation,
So-
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
Okay, and so then to restate the officer's salary line then becomes 220,543, is that correct?
Right.
The overtime line becomes 15,200. And all other lines remain as submitted? Is that right?
That's my understanding.
Okay, so my number's wrong. I'm sorry, I forgot the 200, 15,200.
So,
Eight, so 430.
439,698.
98. What did you get?
439,698, is that correct?
It is. Right. I
When
apologize.
I vote in favor of this motion, I understand that if the math is off $1 one way or the other, it's.
Well, that's more than $1.
But no, if the math isn't right, that they can correct it without us re-voting.
All right.
439,698.
439,698 is the grand total for Department 4210. All right. Any further discussion? You got the numbers?
I think so.
You'll get a copy.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
Do I have the calculator?
You want to run the numbers again?
No, I'm ready
Okay.
to vote. I just.
All right.
I was
All
curious.
right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Chief. Do
So
you have anything else for us today?
Wednesday night, the 3rd,
Yeah.
at McDonald's in Ossipee, they're gonna be given, recognizing, I think, some sort of an award thing. I just got an email today about it,
Milkshakes?
maybe, for Sergeant Hathcock.
Okay.
I put him in for an award recognition from McDonald's, and they'll be doing it at 5 o'clock Wednesday night. Wednesday, yeah, I call it night still, but it's getting darker at 5, but,
Yeah, that's my time.
When you get to my age, 5 o'clock's night.
so,
So,
just, and they offer, the email I got today, make sure to offer it family, friends, town officials, that sort of stuff,
yep,
so.
great.
What time is that? I'm sorry.
5 o'clock
Thank you.
at McDonald's in Ospey. Part of Community Policing Week, which I believe should be voted on in the Senate. Either was voted on early last week or this week. It's gonna be voted on to have next week recognized as Community Policing Week.
Great.
And I'll be there and he'll be there and but I'll have to leave before the end of it. It goes like 4 to 7, but I have to leave earlier to be here for the CIP.
Is it appropriate to have the selectmen send Sergeant Halcock a letter?
Send them flowers.
The next question is, Mr. Chairman,
Sir,
how do I work with the chief and the board with my comment about 2 people, I think?
I think you
Just go directly to
go
the
directly to the chief.
Yeah.
And I would encourage anybody that has suggestions to go directly to the
And
chief.
and you're gonna bring those people forward to us anyway before
Right.
we sign away.
Right, but I need to know what I got to do with it, because this is where we're kind of in a thing with what I've got for money to pay them.
Well, now you know.
Well,
No, for this year though.
For this year.
Oh, for this
Yeah.
year.
yes,
Yeah.
you have the officer who left. We can transfer those funds.
There's not that much by my calculations. I figure there's 9,500 saved there. I figure about 750 in fuel between the 2 vacancies.
Mhm.
But then when I go, that'll be wiped out by hiring costs of 2 officers. And then I have to buy uniforms. Because I guess my point is, do I fill, in order to get somebody in the January academy, I have to get them hired now.
Okay.
Essentially, by the end of November, I have to have them on the books.
Right.
When are they going in January?
And go in January though.
But what-
Towards the beginning, it's like right near the beginning of January.
Okay, so we can push the uniform expenses into 2019. What other,
Well, they have to-
do they have to work before they go to the academy? Or-
They'll be on probably they'll be on our payroll before then, because I can get some of the field training done.
Yeah.
They can get some of the policy manual stuff out of the way, that sort of stuff.
There's a two-tier program here. He's working diligently on getting the full-time position filled.
Right.
There's another dual track here.
Trying to fill our vacancies.
We need blue lights out on the road.
Right.
Right.
And I've got somebody that's interested in doing that, like I
Yep.
mentioned before, but I kind of need to know, by my calculations, to do uniforms, and I may have, I'm not gonna have a whole lot of money by the time I do pre-hire testing and the vacancies. That's my concern.
It would help me if we could sit down with some numbers in front of us. I mean, I'm looking at this year's budget
Yeah.
and what we have left in there, some of which we know is gonna go in the normal course of things. We also know at this point that we have one vacant position
Yeah.
and one position who is,
But that's still coming off my salary, that's still coming out of my budget though.
What is,
The person on leave
yep,
is coming out of my budget, so I'm not counting that as a savings for me, other than the fuel that would normally go in that car.
right.
that time is coming from the bank.
Yeah, and the bank is paying it out of my out of my line, it has to come out of somebody's budget.
I mean,
Yes.
part of it will, whatever Carl gave or you gave or whatever, that's gonna come out. But if another employee, say Clay Gallagher gave money, that's not gonna come out of your budget. That comes out of the budget for the transfer station. That's how it has to work.
Okay.
The way
That's-
it works in the places I've worked is, he is correct, it has to come out of some line, as police salaries. However,
Because we're paying him his
However,
rate.
But you're gonna get reimbursed.
however,
by-
DRA puts it in as revenue. It was a gift to the town.
No.
No,
Well-
you've got an expense at the transfer station. Let's just take that
Yes,
for example.
yes,
We're not using that expense, we're actually transferring that expense to the
Correct.
police department.
Right, so it's coming out of your line, but we're not spending it someplace else in our budget,
Right.
okay? So it,
We
Well-
can move it.
it's a wash item.
Not really, because say, let's just, say
So
somebody at the
we're-
transfer station takes a week of vacation,
right,
that's already in their budget, that's not, I'm not
Yes.
getting that money transferred over.
No.
No.
But the,
Paying them at the rate
But when I talk
here.
about
hours they
I'm
gave
talking
the
about
gift
the town's budget,
Yeah.
okay? So if we overspend in that line for the police department,
Mhm.
it's because we're underspending in another department because it's not gonna be used because somebody has
And
has
it's
put
not
it into the
vacation
league
time,
bank.
it's sick time.
Right,
Right.
So now they don't get sick time, because they've actually
Okay.
already spent the sick time. Theoretically, or if you wanna look at it,
I-
they were sick for a week.
I was presuming it was all coming out of my budget, because that's what the rate we're paying them, and that's
Right.
how it's,
Well, it's gonna look like it comes out of your budget, but it isn't.
it's gonna be charged to your department because that's where the employee is.
yes, it has to be an account number
But
next
we're
to it.
gonna, but there's gonna be an offset somewhere else in the town's budget of that amount, right? So if we look at your budget, wherever it falls in here, it's gonna go over, but we'll have a corresponding underage someplace else,
Right.
okay.
okay? Now,
That was a question that was asked by me before
Yeah,
I
'cause,
put my
I-
name on the line.
And just, because I would have assumed that it was all coming out of here, and,
There
well,
would be
it's
no
gonna-
benefit then, then why would we have a bank?
right, it's gonna show up in your line, but
okay.
it's not gonna overspend the town's budget as a result of that.
All right.
But with respect to, all right, you've got, about, in uniforms, you got about 3,000 left as of
Yep.
9/24, okay? So I don't know how that relates to uniforms for a new hire and for part-time officers. I don't know how much uniforms cost. But,
So you're right, he needs to come up with a program and then bring it to us and we'll
Right.
figure out how to fund it.
Well, here's
yeah.
the numbers on what uniform and what I just calculated on those two savings and then some of the costs.
Okay,
So
all right,
that's how I,
But we don't know today who you're gonna hire.
not
right.
at this point.
With the
So
two names,
when you
that-
know who you're gonna hire, I think at that point in time.
Chip, with the two names that someone came to me with, my sense is that providing uniforms won't be an issue.
I see, they're going undercover, Andy.
No.
Right.
They're going to
They're supplying the uniforms.
Who's supplying the uniforms?
That's what I was told.
All right. Well,
Have a chat with the chief.
Chief,
Let's-
Yeah,
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 I
yeah.
don't see that working, but okay.
I don't know, I only know what I was told.
well, and anyway, it's our responsibility,
Yeah.
this board, to make sure that you have the resources to get this thing going. Now, we worked on next year's budget.
Yeah.
That's separate from what we're dealing with here.
Right.
And ultimately, you may be squeezed on this. And so, as we get into that process, we need to figure out how we're gonna deal with it, this board.
But it's not like we haven't dealt with an overspent budget highway department
Yeah.
before, so I think we could probably handle
Well,
There are strategies.
except we're running near the end of the year, so
Yeah.
there's
Yep,
flexibility on that becomes rather limited as opposed to if it's earlier in the year and you
Well,
see something,
right,
but that's,
right. We-
you're right, that's your
we
thing,
have
it's not mine. but-
few-
That's above
fewer
your pay
other-
grade,
It's
buddy.
above my pay grade.
yeah. Fewer
I'm just warning you, that's what it kinda looks like to me, where I'm sitting, that's why
Right,
I
but I
was,
think rather than hypotheticals, I think it would be better for you to bring to the chair, okay, this is what I have available for a
Yeah.
person,
so,
and this is what it's gonna cost,
Yeah,
and then we'll figure it out from there.
okay. But that's why I needed to have a heads up, and that's why I was asking, because you said to get some names, then you said hold off, and you can't give me, I need to know when I
Yeah,
talk to these people, whether I'm really, how far we're going on this path down, because earlier it was yes, and then it was maybe not. And my sense was, with part-timers, the part-time question came up, it was kind of maybe not at one point, so, because of time frames to get people in. If I'm still going down that path, that's great, and I'll keep going, but I kind of hold off till I could hear where I was on the money part of it. That's a big part of it, is where am I coming up with that money to do it? And that's, I mean, I've got somebody lined up that will work, has said they want to work part-time, I gotta get their certification. I know what I need to do to get that, but it's gonna take a little bit. And it's somebody I can get quick and in and do it.
so bring us that budget. What's that person gonna cost us until the end of the year? We've already plugged them in for 2019,
right.
so we just need to know what we gotta do from now until
Okay.
December 31st.
Okay, I wanted to make, that's what I needed an answer on for sure, where it's going with
And then
that.
the other piece is
And the
the
testing,
candidate,
for full-time, the testing is October 6th. The results usually come back within a few days. So when I get back from Florida, I should have the results.
Mhm.
Problem is, those results go far and wide, and probably about 15 of the departments on that list of the 37 in this state are on that list.
yeah,
Already made a phone call.
right,
Yeah, well, they don't know who they are until they get the,
right.
but, I mean, obviously I'll rush through that as fast as I can, and if obviously somebody comes in the meantime, we'll go with that, I'll see where that goes too.
Okay, great.
Great.
But it's not, I just suspect that we're gonna be looking at somebody uncertified,
Yep,
because the demand and what's out there, that's
That's reasonable.
yep,
where the most likely path we're gonna be. Worst case scenario, maybe best case scenario in some ways, but that's where I see the likely path is, and that, if I can get it done early enough, means we won't have somebody until probably early, mid-July, depending on how much, if they start in December, but, November 28th, we get them hired on the books, get them into the academy, and start them in December, we can start doing some of this is the policy on this, policy on this. They can get some of that homework done, if you will, before they go to the academy. So, and it saves on the far end.
right.
All right,
All
thank
right,
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you,
Good night.
Chief. Hang
Oh,
hang with
yeah,
that.
we're-
Yep.
Huh?
Call if you get work.
All right. Let's see. What do we have? I thought I did sign this.
You did.
Did you literally sign it? I missed it.
Hmm? Yep. I'll read. Okay, so I will re-sign, or sign for the first time, the
Fence repair?
fence
Oh, I
repair.
think you're thinking of the thing for the townhouse. The
No.
proposal.
No.
What was the
Yeah?
fence repair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh,
Yeah.
maybe there
May-
were more than one
Well,
copy.
we approved it, maybe I
Yeah, you
didn't.
certainly did approve it.
Maybe,
It's just
maybe I
a
didn't,
formality.
I know we had a, well, it's only your signature, right, not ours.
yes,
Yeah.
I know we
Right.
had an application for part-time work.
we
Are we
do.
gonna invite that person in? I mean, I'd like to, it's been
Sure.
a while since we made that request, and now we finally have somebody that's
Yep,
interested. I think it might, and we've certainly got enough things to do. Obviously, what Lloyd was saying about the police department, the clerical stuff, where the secretary of the planning board needs a little help, I think. Ball got dropped, or maybe that doesn't need to get dropped.
I'm a little conflicted. I prefer to get the person aboard, and not just a person. The only thing is, this is the Bay of Fundy time. Between now and March, we want to, our people are doing, for example, Monday we'll be deciding on CIP projects, and the paperwork has to be done for the agenda that meets Wednesday. The two ladies that we depend upon are just absolutely backed. Is now the time of year for them to be training someone.
I think that's why we need to bring the person in. I mean,
Right.
we don't know what the skill level is. Our staff has plenty of work to do, there's no doubt about that. Do they need to be answering the phone? Do they need to be taking minutes of meetings, for instance?
I just wanted
Karen's
to
got a lot
be, I wanted to be
do with all
sensitive
this.
to their observations.
well,
So I've tossed it.
And, part of this whole thing also depends upon the individual's capabilities and experience.
Yeah.
So I think, I agree with you,
In the
yes.
end, as they say, I mean, we don't even know if we like her.
Right, right.
Did you want to see
So-
if they can come in Monday, or, I know it's a quick turnaround, but
That, or
the 15th?
we could meet with her another time, next Friday.
Yeah.
I think
It might be better
it would be
to
better
not have
to
her come to a public
Right.
meeting, or
It would be
be a
better-
public meeting.
see if she can come meet with us next Friday,
Yeah.
in the morning.
And that would be non-public.
Absolutely, it's not public, yeah.
Yeah, next Friday, okay.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Any other business for today that I have? Am I missing anything that we need to deal with today, Karen?
I don't think so, thanks.
I'll
All right.
move we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Also.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
you, Joe.
Awful lot.